one reason this is happening. It's because we're black. So whether it's Rosedale or the neighboring communities, this can happen anywhere. This isn't happening because they say, hey, you know, those are your ideals. You know, this is happening because we're black. And what are we going to do about it? What are we as people going to do about our blackness? Hide it? Become invisible? We can't do that.
We're going to keep this neighborhood. We're going to keep Rosedale predominantly white the way it is, and we will not let a bad element in. We're going to fight. This is our right, too. You know, they talk about rights for minorities. Where the hell are the rights for whites? That's what we're all about, equal rights for whites.
These are the people of Rosedale, the way it is. Tonight, their story. This is Rosedale, a community of 6,000 families in the far southeastern pocket of the borough of Queens. To the passing eye, it seems quiet. Modest 1- and 2-family homes with fenced-in lawns and tree-shaded streets. The people who live here are almost all white, working-class Americans of Italian, Irish, and Jewish roots. They've worked all their lives to afford these homes. Many came from the inner city, refugees from neighborhoods in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and South Jamaica. Neighborhoods they saw changing and dangerous to live in. These people saved their money and made their escape to what they called the last frontier in New York City, to Rosedale, to what they hoped would be a safe and quiet life. In the early 1970s, a few middle-class black families with very much the same idea in mind began to move to Rosedale too. The whites saw their coming as a threat, the forerunner of more blacks bringing crime, blight, and poor services they had witnessed in other neighborhoods in the city. And the peace of Rosedale was shattered. In 1971, a score of men and teenage boys using axes and picks nearly destroyed a house reportedly bought by a black man married to a white woman. 200 residents stood by and watched. Since then, more than 10 acts of violence have been aimed at the few blacks living in Rosedale. The tension escalated with the coming of the Spencers. In the summer of '74, Tony and Glenda Spencer bought this 7-room house on 136th Avenue. They came to New York from the West Indies after living in London. Spencer, a photo engraver in Manhattan, said they just wanted a good place to live. But some whites suspected them of blockbusting, of trying to force lower property values on Rosedale homes so other blacks could afford to buy here. Before the Spencers moved in, their house was set on fire with gasoline. They moved anyway. On New Year's Eve day a year ago, while the Spencers and their sons slept, a pipe bomb exploded on the porch and smashed through the windows of the house. Police said the bomb was intended to wipe out the family. Attached to the bomb was a note that read, "Nigger, be warned. We have time. We will get your firstborn first." It was signed, Viva Boston, KKK.
My first feeling when I saw it, I thought, my God, these people are trying to kill us. What they think this is, this time of the morning, who are the animals that could be doing things like this? That was my first thought. And my second, my main concern was to get my family out of the house once we called the police. And they claimed at the time there was another bomb outside. My main concern was to get my family out.
How did this terrible thing affect your children? How did it affect them?
It has affected them in many ways. They're very apprehensive now about being children, about going out and, doing the things that boys do. You got to remember they're 3 boys, and boys always get into things. And it's got them now where they look twice at everybody. They're wondering about the people that they live around. The people lives around in this neighborhood, they wonder, could that be the person? Why are these people hating us? Why are they doing the things that they do to us? Especially when my youngest son was beaten up twice in our own front garden.
When they ask you these things, why? What do you tell them?
Well, my thing for getting out of it is I usually tell them that there are good and bad in every people, every race, regardless. There are prejudice for most things, whether it's religious, whether it's race, whether it's color, or what. And we just happen to be amongst a few people whose minds are warped. And therefore, we cannot class everyone that we see in this neighborhood as the same. They are in the minority, the people who are doing these things in this neighborhood. And that's the only thing I can tell them. I don't want to, teach them hate, because hate consumes people. Anyone who allow hate to become an everyday thing in their lives, their object in life and their goals become second, and their hate becomes first. And I'm not going to teach them that, regardless of how many bombs they put at this house. I'm not going to teach my children hate.
Down, down, down with the Nazis! Down with the Klan! Down with the Klan! Down!
The bombing of the Spencer home galvanized the support of civil rights sympathizers outside of Rosedale. They gathered to rally near the Spencer house.
Down with the Nazis! Down with the Nazis! Down with Hitler, brother!
We decided that we would come down here and do whatever we could to help the Spencer family, to help any family that wants to move into a neighborhood and something goes wrong. Somebody comes, bombs their home, burns them, tells them to go back to Africa or some other slur, right? We are outraged by this. What do we want?
The right to live where we choose!
What do we want?
The right to live where we choose!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it?
Now!
The easiest thing for us, for anybody, be it black, be it white, it's always the easy jump out of the situation. Okay, we can move. We can go back anywhere. We don't have to live in this house. We don't have to live here. We don't have to. We can move. And this is what happens all the time. Everybody says, we can move, we can do this, we can do that. But we have got a right, as people, as human beings, to live where we want to live.
Aren't we people? If they can determine that we are not people, then they got a point. If they can't determine it or they can't prove it, they better shut up. The color of our skins don't make us any less. We are people. We like to believe that we are human beings, and we'd like to believe that they're the same, but it's given us a lot of doubts, some of the things that they've done.
So the Spencers are staying, their house the front line in the struggle for turf. Even after the firebombing, their children were harassed, the family threatened with more violence. And while the whites drew together in Rosedale, support for the Spencers came from beyond.
I mean, there are black people who are harassed constantly. This isn't, I said before, this may not be a unique situation. It's happening to too many people all over the world, too many people in America this is happening to. And many people, even your people in the neighboring communities, always say the easiest solution to the problem is we now are the problem right here. And the solution to the problem is, like you say, move. And then another problem comes up, so you'll be constantly running. And we can't run away from our blackness. We can't. So let's face that fact that we are black. And we'll be harassed constantly. Whether it's here, whether it's in a job situation, whether it's on busing, whatever. And we have to decide at a time, what are we going to do about it as people? What are the good people going to do? What are the, people as people, whether you're black, whether you're white, what are the people going to do about situations like this, or situations that's happening all over?
What are you going to do?
What are we going to do as a family? We're here. We're here right now. We are going to stay here. Definitely going to stay. It bothers us naturally. I mean, we're human beings, so it must affect us. It must affect our whole lives. I mean, the might of a firebombing affected our whole lives. And a pipe bombing affected our whole lives. But as long as, whenever we die, we're going to die black. We just can't get away from that. No way can we get away from that.
We are being separated by a whole lot of things going on because of the color of our skins. Yet we have the same goals. We are after the same things. You hope that your job is safe, that you're doing well at your job, there is advancement, there's promotion. We have the same frustrations of whether our children are doing well at school or whether they're not doing well, problems with them. We all have the same problems.
I want to live. To the best of our ability, we all want to live. We all have achievements, we all have goals, we all have aims, we all like a lot of things. And we just go through life as it is. Happiness. Who doesn't want that?
A moment's happiness. That's what I want. A moment's happiness. rid of all this sort of aggravation so my family and I, we can just have our moment's happiness, which there are thousands and millions of people seeking that moment's happiness. And it's very elusive.
An outsider to Rosedale has to be wary of simple judgments. Things are more than they seem, and you can't neatly sort out all the streams of conflict that make this a tragedy of people coming to grief in their search for good. Racial hatred is here, a fierce, murderous passion that turns men into vicious brutes, hurling bombs at sleeping children. It's happened often in our past. It happens still.